1964, after the Birmingham bombing, Fayetteville, North Carolina. At 9 years old, you never really know quite what's going on, but you get caught up in the emotions of things. And I remember everybody coming together to pray on the front lawn as they marched down Person Street up to the marketplace in Fayetteville, downtown Fayetteville. I remember all the busyness going on after they left by the women who were there, cooking and getting things ready for their return. But still, I had no idea. But when they returned from their walk, battered and bruised, having been hosed, having had bricks thrown at them, my father said there were even snakes thrown into the crowd. Wow. They came back into the backyard, and they were victorious.
All right.
And that energy that they brought back with them infused this 9-year-old girl with an awareness that something happened. I didn't know what, but something happened, and I knew the world would never be the same. And so it is that young girl that's showing up here right now beside the grown me that I am. All right? And it is such an honor because now I know where we've been. And I know where we must go. Dr. King's voice embodied the righteous authority of an overdue moral revolution that swept this state, throughout the South, throughout America, and even the world. His voice called for desegregation at the height of Jim Crow. It cried for equality under the law when states' rights were institutionalizing interposition and nullification. And it clarified the injustice of poverty, of those African Americans, those descendants of slaves, our ancestors, who, as King put it, still lived in the basement of the Great Society. That voice punctuated a movement and shaped the tactics and the language for generations of activists across the world. That voice established the cadence of a generation of Southern preachers who preached love to hate and preached resistance to complacency. Dr. King's voice, which inspired yesterday, should drive us today, because we've come too far to turn back now. It should stand as a reminder that terror is not destiny, and that this moment, like his moment, can only fester, not because of what King called the bad people, but because of the appalling silence of the good people. We must wake up. Yes, when exclusion has become enmeshed in our civic consciousness, when vast inequality between poor and rich, between black and white, between undocumented and citizens has punctured our political landscape, when racism, yes, racism, has infected our national character, we must embrace the lessons of the civil rights movement and remember that we, the people, are the bridges, the gap between the America we see and the America that can be. We must remember that in the face of Republican majorities in the House and Senate, and in the face of majority on the Supreme Court, and in the face of the President himself, this day should stand as a reminder we still have a say in the political process. Coretta Scott King reminded us that struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it. You win it in every generation. So we are the generations gathered here today to earn that freedom. Let us lift up our voices and say what Dr. King said. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring.
Yes.
I want to hear you. Let freedom ring.
Let freedom ring.
Let freedom ring. Say yes to let freedom ring in the aisles of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. Let freedom ring throughout Alabama and across this nation. Let freedom ring in our communities and in our prisons. Let freedom ring in the courtrooms, where justice denied feeds imprisonment of lost generations of American citizens. Let freedom ring on our coastlines and borders, where cruelty has become confused with security. Leaving children who grew up knowing only America are now faced with separation from their homes and their families. Let freedom ring on our streets, where 17-year-old boys and girls like Ulysses Wilkerson walk in fear of agents of the state that view some American children as trespassers in our own community. Let freedom ring in our state, which has seen corporate dominance and automation choke our ability to collectively bargain for the wages and hours we deserve. Let freedom ring through our politics, which has abandoned morality for money and traded vision for political convenience. But above all, let freedom ring through the ballot box, like it did past December, like it will in November of 2018, proving that it is our effort, our power, and our organizing that determines where our future lies. Let freedom ring. The question that Dr. King posed to the SCLC in 1967 should reverberate throughout the present and govern what this moment represents for Alabama and America. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? If we don't answer that question, time degraded by complacency will answer it for us. If we don't answer that question, Trump and the forces that brought him into power will answer that question for us. But I don't know about you. But I don't want to see my sons and my 15 grandchildren in the hands of Trump. Amen. Alabama walked into the new year facing the reality of possibility anew. A future was born from the collective struggle of those in this state. It was shaped by us and led to a Democrat taking the Senate for the first time in almost 3 decades. In the wake of that stunning victory, afforded in no small part to black people and to black women who showed up at 98%. Throughout the state, it was important. It was a historical moment when we said, no more. We've come too far to turn back now. We must remember that we were not fighting for power's sake. We were not taking a step forward with no destination in mind. We are participants in the long struggle, standing for and with the poor, and the divested from, the sick and the neglected, the oppressed and the dispossessed, whose plight that we as Democrats and as people of goodwill have taken upon ourselves to address. For us, victory is not just won in the ballot box, though. It's won through guaranteeing that America's fruits are available to all Americans.
Amen.
realized by Dr. King's murder during the Poor People's Campaign has been left for us to reenact. We have inherited the dream. We stand as not just the recipients of his vision, but as the measure for whether an America that can confront what he called the interrelated evils of poverty, racism, and militarism will come into being. He did not just see a future where black and white children can join hands in peace. He saw white and black children coming together to fight for those freedoms as the realization of that peace. His dream is our charge. And only through our action, not inaction, our organizing, not sitting at home, and our movement toward an Alabama that sees no barrier to where we go, can his dream become our reality. I am running for Congress because I believe, as I've always believed, that what happens in Alabama foreshadows this nation's greatest triumphs, just as it reflects its greatest sins. Alabama stands at America's crossroads, with our feet standing uncertainly between the America we must have and the America we can no longer afford. But I'm heartened because I know that the fierce urgency of now will motivate our footsteps. Are you with me?
Yeah.
The Alabama that sees universal health care as a right for all. The Alabama that sees a living wage and labor rights. The Alabama that embraces equality and justice by seeking historical injustice. To right historical injustice is within our reach.
Yes, yes.
As Alabama did when our protests forced the hand of Jim Crow. As Alabama did when my mentor Amelia Boynton Robinson joined the organizers on the, excuse me. Wish I could do it.
Take your time.
Amen.
Amen, amen, amen.
Amen.
Amelia Boynton Robinson. I might lose my voice. I've been worried about this. I've been battling a cold, but bear with me.
The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Amelia Boynton Robinson joined the organizers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday in Selma to embrace the political power that was their right. We have been called to action now. Ms. Robinson said to me one day, when I asked her, Queen Mother, how did you stand there and see those policemen coming at you? How did you keep going as their batons were raised and coming at you? And she said to me, Audrey, we already knew the victory was ours. No matter what they did, they couldn't take that from us. We had to be the demonstration of the power of God to affect what is right and just. And she said, so I want you to tell people, when they talk about standing on my shoulders, she was 104 at the time, standing on my shoulders, tell them, don't stand on my shoulders. Get out there and cross your own bridges. That is the service that we owe to the moral arc that cannot bend itself. That is the service we must fulfill to ourselves, to our country, to our state, to all of our people, with the understanding that anything that is needed to rise up in us, God has already placed within us. This is our time.
Yes.
We have in our hands an opportunity to shift the moral compass of Alabama and America. I close with a quote from Howard Thurman.
All right now.
An African-American author, philosopher, theologian, educator, and civil rights leader. Thurman's theology of radical nonviolence influenced and shaped a generation of civil rights activists. And he was a mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King. He said, the movement, and I want you to hear me now. In fact, why don't we all stand up together? Because I want you to not just hear it, I want to put this in your being. The movement of the Spirit of God in the hearts of men and women often calls them to act against the spirit of their times, or causes them to anticipate a spirit which is yet in the making.
All right.
In a moment of dedication, they are given wisdom and courage to dare a deed that challenges and kindles a hope and inspires. Let us be the hope that inspires generations to come. We are the change. I am Audri Scott Williams, and I'm running for Congress in the U.S. House of Representatives here in District 2. God bless you. God bless Alabama. And God bless America.